administer grants rolls into services. It goes to programs usually in future years. The Budget Act of 2023, which is in draft form right now, it's kind of behind, that the actual language of it's still behind closed doors. That is expected this early summer. The legislature, the governor releases like a revised version of their budget in May. The legislature has to pass a budget bill by mid-June, I think, and the governor is supposed to sign it by early July. Defer to Lack if I got those dates wrong.
Chris, I'll just clarify. The governor released his proposed in January. The May revise is when the legislature will release their version, and then again, like you said, we'll know in June.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That instrument will specify how the funds are to be distributed. For example, by formula, by statutory formula, to ensure that each county gets its fair share, by competitive grant making, or some hybrid. However, the access to civil justice community, this commission, the State Bar of California, the Judicial Council of California, LAC, and other agency partners have an opportunity to sort of weigh in now on what they'd like to see in the Budget Act. Of course, it will be up to the legislature and the governor ultimately what language goes into that law and specifies how the funds will be distributed. But there is a moment now in the spring where if the community kind of comes to an agreement on certain pillars for a distribution method, the legislature might take that into account. So the rest of this presentation is going to walk you through some of the options we're looking at and very quickly a couple of sample timelines. So in thinking about how the funds might be administered, we kind of looked at the pros and cons of a formula distribution and a competitive process. So these are rather intuitive, but to say them out loud, one of the benefits of a formula distribution, much like the IOLTA and EAF formula, is that it can ensure that each county gets some funding. It's not that like some counties won't get funding because no one applies in a competitive process to serve that county. Every county would kind of get an upfront allocation. It could, in theory, be tied to some proxy for the need for this work in that county. So in this case, the need for counsel for respondents in that county. And it can do things like set a county ceiling or floor. You can adjust for things like cost of living. That formula can let you do that, whereas a competitive process is a little bit more dependent on what the applicants ask for. The benefit of a competitive process is it can sort of, it allows for the award making entity, which would be the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission here, to look at things like applicant eligibility with an eye to competitiveness, like who's in a better situation to deliver these services with respect to their peers. And it generally allows applicants to submit a budget, which is an opportunity for them to say, this is the most that we can spend. The formula is too much. Like we can spend this much money. This is what we think it would take to do the job. Or the formula's number's too low. We would need more. It gives them more say in what they can do. Yeah, Erica.
All right. I know I keep asking these questions.
No, this is great.
What this money, the 6.1 million, what happens with the public defender's offices? So do they have to apply as well, or what? How does that play in?
So
that piece is coming, Erica.
Okay, sorry.
We have a proposal to handle the public.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And what the CARE Act says is that the court shall appoint a public defender if no QLSP is available, has agreed to take the case. So essentially, the money that we're going to propose that goes to each county would go through a process whereby QLSPs could apply to be the counsel to respondents. And if no QLSPs apply, or if the QLSPs can only take some but not all cases, the public defender would take over.
And just to clarify, this is just a proposal. We don't know if like this is going to stick with the legislature. This is just our right now the staff working proposal.
Yeah, there is no budget act that's like fleshed out yet that we can. Yeah, this is not, and this is coming from the Office of Access and Inclusion in consultation with some of the planning grantees and a couple of planning conversations with LAC, but not, this isn't like a set in stone yet. So OA and I ran several formulas just to see how the numbers might fall for cohort 1. We did as a logical starting place, use some of the assumptions and premises of the IOLTA and Equal Access Fund formula. That formula, as you know, gives after State Bar and Judicial Council administrative costs, it allocates 85% to qualified legal services projects and 15% to support centers. So when we were running iterations of a formula for cohort 1 for care court grants, we kept 85%. We assumed about 5% for, I'm starting at the bottom of that like sub bullet point where it says 5% for JC. We assume 5% for State Bar and Judicial Council admin costs, which is consistent with what we're seeing the legislature stick in for other grants, like the homelessness prevention grants. And again, any amount that the Judicial Council and State Bar doesn't use will just go to, usually goes to services in a future distribution, kind of rolls over to the programs. 85% for qualified legal services projects / public defenders, and 10% for support centers. The IOLTA formula puts support centers at 15%, but what we've been hearing is that for at least the first year of cohort 1, the emphasis is going to be on getting services up and running as quickly as possible, actual representation for respondents. And we know that other agencies will also be getting funding to provide technical assistance to counsel for respondents, like the Department of Healthcare Services is, to my knowledge, going to be the primary statutorily funded agency to provide that TA. But the support centers would get some too. So that each iteration of the formula we ran looked at that. The things that we kind of tweaked and played with to see how the funding might shift between programs and counties is we ran essentially the IOLTA formula, which looks at each county's relative share of the combined population living at or below 125% of the federal poverty level. So for cohort 1, that's just adding up the 7-county total of that population and seeing what percentage of that total each county is essentially contributing. And kind of determined county allocations on that basis, which is what IOLTA does. And we also ran it looking just at general population. I'll just flag that in the CARE Act, respondents don't need to be statutorily indigent to go through the program. Unlike IOLTA and EAF funded legal aid, they need to be statutorily indigent. That is not the case for CARE Act respondents. So we did look at general population allocations just to see what it would do to the numbers. We looked at county floors. We kind of looked at what would happen if we set a county floor of $125,000. We looked at grant level floors of about $125,000. And we looked at different ways of distributing a county's allocated amount, including by each applicant's qualified expenditures serving that county, which is inspired by IOLTA, just splitting the pot evenly among the applicants or by competitive RFP. And what we proposed to the CARE Court planning grantees last week, and what the Office of Access and Inclusion is at this point in time leaning quite strongly towards, is a hybrid formula RFP approach rather than a pure formula from start to finish approach. And I'll just preview for you. That's to give the qualified legal services project applicants some ability to communicate to the commission how many clients they think they would be able to serve and what it would cost them to do it. Whereas a pure formula would just say, here's your number, submit a budget. I'm going to go through the next 2 slides a little more quickly. We kind of created these for the planning grantees, but I just wanted to show you really quickly what the county numbers are when we just run the IOLTA formula on the basis of 125% of federal poverty versus general population. So again, what this table is essentially doing is it's saying Glenn County has 0.35% of the 7-county combined population living at or below 125% of federal poverty. So for the $5,185,000 that QLSPs would get, that's taking 5% off for administrative costs and 10% for support centers and putting it aside. For the $5.185 million for QLSPs, Glenn would get 0.35% of that. If you look at general population, it gets 0.28%. And you can kind of see how the numbers are looking. These are county allocations, and you can see Glenn is pretty low. Tuolumne at the bottom is also pretty low. But the main takeaway from this slide for the planning grantees was if we run it by general population, it actually doesn't shift the numbers that much. 125% of federal poverty very slightly favors rural California. So the Office of Access and Inclusion leans towards the 125% approach. This slide is just showing you what happens if we give each county a floor of $125,000. So that would affect Glenn, it would benefit Glenn and Tuolumne. It would bring them up from 18,148 and 25,407, first row and the bottom row, and bring them up to 125. The other 5 counties would each chip in proportionally to bring them up to that floor. It again doesn't lead to dramatic swings. It takes a little bit away from urban California, but it's not, I think, like an enormous difference. Before I move on to the next slide, I'm going to flag the OA and I and several of the planning grantees have been talking about whether or not there's a better proxy for the need for counsel to respondents than 125% of federal poverty. Is that the right proxy? And we're exploring different options because it's not that closely tailored to like who would be going through this program. They are very likely to be statutorily indigent given the severity of the qualifying mental health issues. But might there be metrics like filing data for certain types of cases that would be a better, more closely tied? The issue we're bumping up against is we would need a reliable and current data point for each county every year we needed to run the formula, and making sure that we have a great data point for that we can reliably expect to have a great data point for every county every time is the challenge. So we know we'll have poverty data, but we're exploring what other data we might get on a county at a county level consistently.
So this is just as a random point on this. I don't know if this is a good proxy, but I wonder whether there's something like Social Security disability payments. Like, I understand that disability is not exclusively like mental health kind of stuff, but I'm just thinking like that kind of a proxy where there might be some kind of funding, that's given to this kind of population, or the demographic that is likely to meet the criteria, where there might be some overlap. I don't know, just a suggestion. I'm sure you guys are already.
Thank you. No, that's great. And we'll add that to the list of like, because we've been getting feedback from the planning grantees too, on like, look at emergency room visits, look at, the conservatorship filings, and then the next thing we do is like, can we get that data reliably for each county? But that's a great suggestion. So I just have a couple more slides and then the discussion question for you. So, so the proposal that I've already kind of teed up for you is, and this is what we ran by the planning grantees, and they're providing us with feedback, and we are getting really helpful, constructive, and substantive feedback on this. So 5% for judicial counsel and state bar costs, unused amount kind of rolls to services, 10% for support centers, split equally, like IOLTA splits their amount equally to serve, in theory, all the counties. 85% for QLSPs and public defenders. The proposal was 125% of federal poverty would be the proxy. That could change. A county floor of $125,000. That's, we're receiving feedback on that idea. And we would also probably layer on some kind of adjustment for the cost of living or providing services in each county. QLSPs could then, this is where it would shift from a formula approach. So formula would kind of spit out the county allocation, and then we would pivot to what looks more like a competitive process so that the QLSPs could communicate to the commission how many people they think they could serve in the coming year and what it would cost them to do it. So they could apply for up to the county's allocation to serve that county. If no QLSPs apply, it would have to go to the would give it to the public defenders. It's not totally clear what happens if a QLSP signs up, but then kind of runs through all the money. The CAREC sort of suggests it would then kick over to the public defender anyway. That's kind of, we'll learn more about that as time passes. The qualified legal services projects could propose how many people they would serve. The commission could explore, or any committee creates could explore the idea of maybe setting a floor for the number of clients that they sign up to serve. Like, you can propose your budget and your number of clients, but it needs to be at least fill in the blank, 40 clients or something like that. Just to share the numbers with you, for $6.1 million, 5% for the Judicial Council and State Bar California would be $305,000. 10% for support centers would be $610,000. 85% for QLSPs and PDs would be $5,185,000. Those were and that was the number that the tables was allocating to each county. if we go back to that estimate of about 1,750 to 3,000 Californians in cohort 1 who meet the criteria, again, they might not all become respondents in the first year, but that meet the criteria, the $5,185,000 would basically yield about $3,000 per person if it was the low end of that range, to $1,720 per person on the high end. The Office of Excellence Inclusion could provide this sort of breakdown to applicants in the way of, as in the form of like technical assistance to sort of help them think about how many clients they put in their application that they might be able to serve for a particular amount of money. I'll just flag that $6.1 million is almost certainly too little to cover the true costs of providing this representation, if indeed 1,750 to 3,000 people actually went through the program in 1 year. And nobody really knows for sure how many people are going to go through in each county, although some counties have been compiling some pretty thoughtful estimates. But like if it was actually this whole segment, this amount of money per person is probably too little. And so it is something that the State Bar and the Judicial Council and LAC and the Department of Finance are all talking about, like what is a more realistic number. But for now, we're expecting, and we're trying to manage expectations, we're expecting $6.1 million for the 7 counties. Okay, so I was just going to show you there's a lot of info on this slide. I'm just going to point out the highlights, and then it's a discussion slide. So we just wanted to start planting the seed in your minds of like what the pacing might look like, because for cohort 1, the grants need to be up and running by October 1st. And that's the back end. On the front end, the challenge we're running up against is we're not going to know for sure exactly how much money is available to serve the 7 cohort 1 counties and how much is available to serve LA County until the Budget Act of 2023 becomes final. And that might not happen until early July. However, there's a very good chance that the number that's in the governor's May revision will be the final number. Like it won't be confirmed, like you can rely on this, but there's a good chance that it won't change. So we can act on the basis of that information. And so there's 2 timelines I'm just going to show you. One aims to get applications up and out as on the earlier side, so that there's certainty on the the kind of universe of QLSPs is known earlier, and so the courts and the public defender's offices and the commission can kind of just like know which counties will probably have QLSPs versus public defenders working in them. And then the other timeline waits to release an application until the May revision. So this one shows an April application release, April 21st-ish. You'll see that the governor releases the May revision to the budget around May 14th. I think that's like by then. All versions of the application timeline give the programs about 4 weeks to apply. If the number in the May revision is different than $6.1 million, then whatever budgets they've submitted in the application would have to be updated. Essentially, the applications could then go to the commission at its meeting in June, and the commission could vote on awards at about the time that the legislature is passing its budget bill, but before the governor signs it. And so that vote by the commission would have to be conditioned on the language in the final budget. And then if it couldn't be reconciled, the commission would have to reconvene to vote in July or early August.
So Chris, can you pause there for a second? So I want to point out a couple things that's probably already obvious to you. We've never kind of had a timeline kind of quite like this, where we're doing it in advance of like the budget bill being passed. Usually what happens is we get a heads up and we do a little bit of pre-planning, but then the commission convenes in June. It goes through the committee, and it happens like from June through like either October or December. We're doing a lot of pre-planning because we've never had an October 1st start date. There was an iteration of HP grants that said that we needed to get out the formula grants as soon as possible. And so we didn't do a January distribution, but we did like in advance of that. So I can't remember, that was October, November. And we were able to do that because we knew it was going to go out through formula. So formula is a lot easier. This is somewhat of it's already a complicated new kind of RFP and new funding, and then it's RFP. So we're trying to anticipate where it's going to be a big challenge, and the commission is going to just have to make a determination of where we want to go. Is we just don't know the number, and then I think more importantly, not just the number, but if there are like substantive like modifications, like nobody has given us kind of directions in terms of us as in the state bar of how they want the funds released. So we have, as an office, proactively taken on that like position of let's go out, let's try to develop something, let's get feedback from programs, from LAC, Nutritional Council, and maybe we present something united to the legislature. They will agree on that. We don't know if that's actually what's going to happen. We've never been in this position. Usually they have a vision for us, or else we provide input and they tweak it. So this is unique. And the other complication is, as you all know, we receive zero funding on admin for the planning grants. We do anticipate that we'll get admin funding for the 6.1. How much that is, we don't know. We're dipping into IOLTA admin to fund this. We have at least 4 staff in the office working on this. And so if you go with like this kind of April timeline and things we have to redraft, then just know that there's just more expenditures, more resources that's expended. But the commission is probably going to have to make a determination and just go out on a limb and then give us some direction of where you wanted to go. The other timeline that I asked Chris to mock up, he's going to show you 2 right now, which is one for an April release, another version. I said that I think we probably need to mock up a 3rd one, assuming the commission might want to wait until June in order to then trigger work. It's just a very, very tight timeline, but we'll present 3 versions at the commission level. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, that's great. And so I just took that opportunity to advance the slide. So this just shows you now a later application release. Now the application would go out, otherwise the same steps, after the May revise. So to greater certainty around the amount of money that will be available for cohort 1 and LA, but still no budget bill from the legislature yet. This would almost certainly require the commission to vote on awards in July, and by then I think we would the commission could vote after the Budget Act becomes final, but the applications would still be coming in before then. So it might still be inefficient because the programs would then need to go back and change their budgets or redesign projects to reflect a different amount of money that was available, or maybe even a different distribution mechanism. Like the legislature doesn't totally agree with the formula RFP hybrid or something, or doesn't like the county floors, or wants to set a ceiling or something like that. And then the 3rd version, I can't have it mocked up for you today, but we'll have for the commission meeting, is the one that Dwan just described, which would be applications come in after the Budget Act becomes final. That would really bump up against the start of the grant, which is October 1, but that would be the moment of greatest clarity. Like by then, program applicants would know for sure how much money is on the table for each county, and there wouldn't be a need for them to redesign projects or submit different budgets as information changes.
So that's not optimal, and that's not what we would propose probably. I think we need to look at it, and then the commission can give us the guidance. We don't like that for a lot of reasons, right? We wouldn't be able in that, I think that timeline, give programs 4 weeks, which they're used to being to provide. But also like, I think programs would agree that they need a little bit more lead time, a lot more lead time in order to post and hire and get trained up in order to be ready October 1st to provide services. The other thing is, as Chris mentioned in our proposal, if there's not a public defender in a particular county that's applying for funding, a QSP, then that money goes to public defender's office. I think as a courtesy to public defender's office, we also want to give them lead time to plan, to hire. I mean, at the end of the day, I think our number 1 priority is clients, right? And so we want to be as respectful to our programs, but we also want to extend that courtesy to the public defender's office so that they can get their ship in order. And so that waiting till June just does not honestly feel really great. So that's something that we will communicate to the various stakeholders, legislature, Department of Finance, when we have an opportunity. We just don't know. We don't know what will stick. And so that's the situation.
And then I want to make sure there's time for the other agenda items that come after mine. So I'm just going to go straight to our discussion question, which is, it is staff's proposal to the executive committee that the commission at its meeting on March 24th sort of assign to a committee, whether it's the executive committee or a brand new committee, and I think we're leaning towards brand new committee, to eventually make award recommendations and sort of like run this process, because as now you can see, the timeline is going to be kind of sensitive to the needs of other stakeholders like public defenders' offices and superior courts and other our agency partners like the Judicial Council and California Health and Human Services Agency. So the to have a committee kind of can meet more nimbly and quickly and sort of score applications and make recommendations on a faster timeline, that would be staff's proposal, and that maybe a brand new committee would make sense. And so the question would be, if you agree with that, and if so, who should serve on it?
Yeah, because I don't know if you recall, like we had thought about starting up a committee a few months ago, but we thought let's get a little bit more information to kind of be clear about expectation. But we are at that point where we do need kind of commission input. You know, Chris has done a great job. Alexa's been providing a lot of support and help, and I've been dedicating my time. But we're happy to make the call, but we don't know if we have the authority. We just need a little bit more direction from you. This is the way you want to go. And then the executive committee, a lot of grants have come through you. That's why we think a separate committee. The thing that that I think will be the struggle is that a lot of our commissioners do feel stretched. So then if we do a new committee, who is going to serve and who's going to chair that? That's where we really need to lean on you all, Erica and Amin, and if Chris was here, I'd say the same for your guidance on how you want to deal with this.
Boy, that's a lot.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's not. Do you mind if we stop sharing screen just so, because I can't kind of see everybody.
Chris, you mind? Yeah.
It's a little easier. So first off, I don't know, do you have thoughts on this?
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And I don't know if now is the right time to talk about it, or if this is more of the purview of whatever committee we delegate to, but it seems like there's a lot of, in this discussion about whether we go, RFP versus formula, again, it seems like formula would make things a lot easier, make things a little bit more streamlined and make it more consistent from a dollars perspective. But it seems to me like in a situation like this, if the goal is to make sure that clients are, respondents are being represented appropriately, then, and this is sort of a new concept and potentially a new service that QOSPs are going to be offering that they haven't done before because this court has never existed before, that RFPs might be the better way of ensuring, consistency and accountability and making sure that we have a way of sort of ensuring that services are being provided in the way that they should be in whatever county we're dealing with. I know it's a lot more work. But it sounds like there's a lot, and I know we've talked about this before, there's a lot of kind of detail to how this process is supposed to work and the court process. And let's set aside the fact that we have no idea how many people are going to go through this process, even though we're sort of estimating, right? So let's set that aside because that's a huge unknown that nobody's going to have any way of predicting or understanding in this first year. We may have some data from the first year that can then be used for the second year to kind of give us a sense of what QOSPs should expect. But let's set that aside. Do programs have enough of an understanding of what will be required of? Because what we're talking about is these dollars aren't going to be spent per client; they're going to be spent per FTE, right? This is they're going to have to hire enough FTEs to service a number of clients, but do they have an understanding of how much time that's going to involve per client or how much effort they're going to have to put in?
That's a really good question. So there have been estimates, and I'll tell you the $6.1 million is based on a time estimate that the legislature came up with for how much they think per case and it's 20 hours. And I know that like Judicial Council had come up with a different estimate. LAC had come up with a different estimate, and it's not 20 hours. I'll just say it's more than 20 hours. But again, it's unknown because it's new, right? We can draw parallels to say conservatorship, but this is brand new, so nobody really knows, and everything is an estimate. So that's part of the problem. But that 6.1 is based on 20 hours per petition going through care court. The other thing that we should probably mention to you is that, you know, the governor's vision was to provide kind of a holistic services. So built into the CARE Act is the sense of like wraparound services. You go through care court, but then you also receive supportive services, right? I think Chris had it in one of his slides. Social services, access to housing. The 6.1 though is only an estimate of like representation during the care court proceeding. There is not a separate pot of funding for like ancillary wraparound services. So that's a question that we've been getting a lot from programs is that first allowable? And then where's the funding from? Is that first allowable? I think it's going to probably be, and this is why we would love a committee to kind of brainstorm of whether that's the direction you want to go in. If it is, then perhaps we write it into a proposal in the statute. If it's not, why not? And we've got to communicate that programs. And then there's a separate piece of because we think the 6.1 isn't enough. How are they going to deal with, or is the expectation the wraparound services when it comes to the door? That those are like two really other big issues. We probably don't have time today to get into it, but this is why we need a committee to help brainstorm with us, because there's a lot of other kind of issues like that. The funding piece, what would be allowable exactly, and that just is very detailed and nuanced.
Do we, so in our normal sort of formula approach, there's, I mean, I guess if we do this process, we'd have to come up with sort of like an eligibility criteria that's kind of independent, right? Or are we saying if we do a formula approach, is it that if a QLSP wants to be involved in this process, then they sort of put their hat in the ring for the formula amount? Is that kind of how this works?
Yeah, that's kind of how it works. I have to
do the RFP.
say it's not going to be like HP grants where there's going to be like a lot of a high volume of applications.
Right.
We know from there. Chris, can you remind me, or Alexa, how many PAN grant recipients? 18, and I think 3 of them are support centers. So we're talking 15 QSPs in the 7 counties. I think some of the counties, there's only just 1 provider that's interested and they haven't committed to it. And some counties there might be like 2. So we're not talking about like super competitive, this process, but the thing is, I think this is unique in that we would not advocate for just a pure formula, is that there might be a small program that can actually, or has the expertise or the in-house that can provide more than what a formula share would be versus like a bigger program, because they might not. It's different in that I don't think we should be relying on qualified expenditures. That's all to say, because it's a very specific population, very specific expertise, that I don't think the formula itself by itself can account for that.
Have we learned, sorry, Erica, I just had one more.
No, go for it.
Have we learned, have the sort of planning grants yielded much in the way of, I know hasn't been a lot of time, but are we hearing anything sort of as far as what has come out of that?
Well, we're hearing a lot of questions, a lot of unknowns. The list of question is mounting in terms of like how this is going to play out. And so that's why our office has decided we just have to like take a little bit more of a leadership role. Usually we wait for the legislature to give us guidance or something. And so this is why we've taken upon us. And that's why Chris's presentation was packed full of information. And this is just probably a fourth of what, there's a lot more. And because our staff has done so much work. I mean, I think Chris today said, how much time are you dedicating to this, Chris? 75% something of his time.
Like the last 2 weeks. Yeah.
And so we again, with zero admin dollars, there's at least 4 staff in this office working on this right now. So,
well, it seems to me like a committee is critical for this. I don't see how, I mean, the 3 of us could do it and manage everything else, that's coming up. And it seems like we need some commissioners who can build some expertise on this and as we go through the project. So I'm a fan of getting a committee together. I agree the problem is like who and kind of what size and I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you have any suggestions or thoughts on it. I mean, it seems like, if there's people who have particular expertise in this area, like I know like Catherine's done a million things, but I know she's done some disability work. If there's other people that you think, I don't have strong feelings, that's why.
So I think I don't think we do a large committee, kind of like HP,
No.
like not 8. My thought is around 4 or 5. And then my other thought is like, for continuity, maybe 1 or 2 XCOM commission members, because you guys have been part of the conversation for a while now. And you guys are the leaders of the commission. And it's quite complicated. To have some institutional knowledge would be great. But then that's where we were like who's going to chair, who else do you want us, do you want to ask for volunteers? Do you want us to firmly between now and March go out and ask a couple commissioners? There's also an equity issue right now with the commission. Some commissioners are on like everything. Like I feel so terrible like sending them 5 different emails for 5 different projects a week. And some commissioners are like on one committee and then they don't volunteer for like extras. So I don't know how you want to equalize, or if you do, but
yeah, no. I hear you. I'm laughing because Heidi sent me all of her like fiscal like dates. And so I'm booked up like once or twice a month the next like 7 months. Yeah. Are there people who are not volunteering a lot that you think would be good? Like, I think sometimes people just don't think to volunteer, without, and maybe just a little prodding might work, but I don't know.
Not that's not obvious to me right now, but if you guys have seen people that you think would be good that you haven't seen quite in like doing working groups and stuff like that, because a lot of our work now has gone to the working group kind of model because there's just so much work in this office in the commission. But you tend to see the same people in working groups and discretionary grants and on the committees and the overlap. So I don't know quite how to deal with that. Like if you think Catherine is a good idea, I could reach out to her, but she is one of those people that's on so many of our things. Like
the only reason I was raising her is because I know she has like a background in disability rights, but I know it's too bad Kim Savage isn't on because she had some of that expertise too.
We have 2 new appointments. One of them is coming through the Judicial Council. Patience Milrod, I believe is her last name. She used to be the ED of one of our programs. She's fantastic. She's new. She could potentially be good for this care court.
Yeah.
That's one spot right there. I think Chris Schreiber has in the past, he's not on right now, has expressed like if a need, then he'll like step up. I don't know between the 2 of you.
So here's what I will say.
Okay.
If you're desperate, I can help, but care court is there's a lawsuit going on about its constitutionality. I think my office is involved in defending it. So like, I don't think that presents a conflict in this context, but like, I'm not, this is the only reason I'm hesitant to volunteer to be like on the committee on it, just because I don't want to, I think it still is aligned, but like my office, my other job, like does have some involvement in defending it. And I don't want to create issues there. But I don't know. I mean, if you're timing, and also I have the fiscal stuff, which is like.
But I don't want to put either of you on the spot either. So if you.
Yeah, I know we can think about it, but
you guys can think about it.
I'll give it some thought in terms. I think it's a timing thing for me mostly. That's really the piece of it. Somebody that I remember kind of had some opinions about this and thoughts about it, and mentioned that they had some experience doing sort of mental health courts and conservatorships and that kind of stuff, was Judge Klein. I don't know if he might have some helpful background to offer to that committee. And then I don't know if, I mean, I was just kind of looking through the roster to see if anybody kind of jumped out at me.
Wait.
Joe Lee, is he kind of, do we feel like he's might be being utilized in a way that?
Yeah, he's on partnership, he's not on another committee. I mean, so we could check with those 3 people, just to survey. So are you guys thinking of reaching out or actually asking for volunteers? Just so we need to tee up the March meeting in terms of how we're presenting this.
So my thought is, it might be worth just doing a volunteer thing as just an immediate, like we're thinking about doing this, like because you never know. There might be people who kind of come out of the woodwork. And it might be worth just seeing. Okay. And I think that also gives everyone, there might be people who, you know, especially the new people might be willing to volunteer. I always think it's good to at least ask.
Okay, we could try that. I'll just to forewarn you, every time I've done a volunteer, we've never gotten volunteers. No,
I understand. I'm not saying we should rely on it, but I do think it's a good exercise. I know it's kind of a waste, but then I agree that we should have a couple people that we could be like, hey, you might be good. I agree that like one of the judges might be a good addition to this. I don't know whether they can, because I don't know to what extent they have issues with like where Care Court falls with them. But they would probably be good as far as advising on some of this stuff. I guess Judge Klein's a good one because he's not on the bench anymore. I don't know Vanetta very well. I mean, is there a good
well, she's new and but she did get tapped for the law student fellowship.
Oh, right.
So she is taking on something additional. What
about Angie King? What's her?
She was a legal aid attorney. That could be another possibility.
Okay.
So do you want us to wait off on asking people? You want to ask for volunteers, and then after that, if we don't get volunteers, then to affirmatively then ask?
What time? When do we need to have this committee formed by exactly?
Like yesterday, a month ago. I mean, honestly, we really do need to move quickly because and we can wait until obviously we have to wait until the commission, but then we probably shouldn't wait too long into April because just it's very fast moving.
Can we form the committee, or can we delegate the exec? Procedurally, can we do what we need to do at the commission meeting in March and then populate the committee outside of the commission? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, you just need to have a motion to form the committee, but usually committee members are decided by the chair. The chair is not here today, but I think if you guys had like a leaning, you know, Chris is very open to like who was on it and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I understand that. I guess my suggestion is like you send out a volunteer and then like 2 hours later or even immediately forward it to people that you think might be good and be like, you should really think about volunteering for this because I think you'd be a good fit, right? Or maybe actually Amin and I can do that too, right? Yeah. Like we could do it and just say, hey, you know, we think you would be great. Please consider volunteering and sort of do a soft ask that way. Would that work for you? But just, I just don't want to like not, I feel like sometimes people, if they feel strongly.
Of course. And I just want to keep an eye on time because I do actually have a hard stop at 3 and we have about 9 minutes left. So, okay. So I think, Amin, are you comfortable with what Erica just suggested? I'm comfortable with that. Okay. And then we'll reconvene then. Okay.
And yeah, my suggestions are Judge Klein, maybe Angie, and then kind of see if we get any other hooks. And then if you need more, we can push for more.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know anything about Javier Vargas. Yeah, thank you guys very much.
No, of course. Okay. Can we proceed, Erica, to the next agenda?
Yes, please. Okay. Sorry.
So the next agenda item is about recruitment and retention of new commissioners. So I just want to show you how many open slots we have for the upcoming cycle. Okay, can you all see this?
Yes.
Okay, so we actually have a number of commissioners terming off. So the board has 6 appointments. We have 7 right now. So we have Chris, Amin, Will, and Jim terming off. So the board will be able to appoint 3 commissioners. The commission itself has 4 spots. 3 of them are filled now. So you'll have 1 open spot. It has to be a client eligible one because you guys have to appoint 2, and Will is terming off. So you'll get that Will's backfill.
Okay.
And then judicial council actually only has 1 person terming off. So and we don't handle the judicial council. The judicial council handles their own appointments. They'll have 1 open voting members. The judicial councils members are staying on for a while. The Senate has already appointed the 2 new one, which was Judge Klein and Catherine recently. And then, and I apologize, this spreadsheet isn't up to date. There's 1 new commissioner from the speaker that I think I forwarded to you that just literally happened like a day or 2 ago. So they'll have 1 more appointment. And again, we don't handle that. So as we get them, then we'll fill that in. So really what we need to focus on is this 1 client eligible. And then because I also run the appointments process, I liaise with the liaisons for the Board of Trustees. We should help kind of recruit for the 3 here. And then I can pass along those recommendations, and sometimes they're, it'll be taken into consideration. I can't predict, but we can certainly have a hand in kind of passing on a recommendation. So even though we only have 1, there's the 3 state bar appointments. There is a process question. Why I have you for a few minutes is last year we decided not to have a nominations committee because we felt like we wanted to interview and keep certain things confidential, applicants and so forth. There were 2, then we had two members of executive committee, former working group, and then we interviewed along with me, state bar staff. The composition isn't quite the same because if you do two XCOM members this year, because there's only 3 of you, that is subject to Bagley-Keene. The other thing is Amin is up for, is terming off. So I don't know if Amin is going to be reapplying, but if he does reapply, I think like that does pose a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, not to speak.
Sorry, Amin, sorry, just, so that we're.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you guys want to do it. I think maybe 2 commissioners would still be helpful, but maybe it's like 1 from XCOM and maybe 1 from like the commission that you think is like, could participate. That would be my recommendation. I don't have a strong thought. We also don't have to decide that today. You all can, Erica, maybe you can give me like what your thoughts on email, since we don't have time to discuss, and then I can talk to Chris about it, and then we can loop back at our next XCOM meeting on how we want to deal with that.
No problem. Are any of the people that are terming off like cannot reapply? Or is everyone can reapply?
Everybody can reapply. There are term limits, but the term limits, it's two terms, but the thing is like for
Amin, reset, right?
Two moving forward though. So even though like Amin has like been on, that like it doesn't count against him that he's already served. Right. I can't remember. I mean, if you served 1 or 2 terms, but it's like starting afresh now.
Exactly, right. So everybody who's on now gets 2 terms, basically. Yeah. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure.
So I guess in the interest of time, why don't we
we'll send you some thoughts.
Send me thoughts. And then the last agenda item is I walk you guys through the agenda, the agenda for the next commission meeting. I'm not gonna be able to do that. So let me email it to you. And then if you have thoughts on things you want to take off or add, just email them back to me. And we previewed for you the ones that are like, the hot topics, right? IELTS reserve and the care court. So the other ones are more routine. We'll do it that way. And then I'll take your feedback and share with Chris, and then Chris and I can finalize the agenda.
Okay. So as far as that makes sense. So our to-dos are basically at this point is you're going to email for volunteers, and then 1 or both of us will email a couple people on who that is. We need to give you some ideas on interviewing folks and then give you feedback on the agenda.
Yes. And we know you have a lot of questions on care court, and since you've been like really steeped in it with us, if no, this is to say if we can't do it in a public meeting because it'll like, we can't call another meeting in 10 days, but if like Erica, you had questions and you want to talk to us, or you do, why don't you just email me, and then we'll schedule time, me, you, and Chris and Alexa, to answer all your questions and to get your feedback and all that stuff. We're happy to do that. We welcome the feedback if you want to do that, so that we can answer all your questions. Or if you want to give us feedback.
Oh, you mean Chris? Sorry, you mean Chris McConkey. I was thinking Chris Schreiber, and I was like, isn't that like
no. Chris
Bagley-Keene? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I think it seems like care court, the biggest problem is that there just seems to be a lot of unknowns that everyone's dealing with. So,
Mhm.
and then I guess the big thing is just to keep us, to the extent that you get any, wind shifting from the legislature on this stuff, obviously let us know, but.
Yeah, and that's why it would be helpful to have a committee so that we can say,
Yeah.
hey, we just talked to so-and-so, what are your thoughts, or how do you want us to handle? Otherwise, like, I've just been taking the executive lead and kind of making decisions, but I would love your feedback. Like Chris and I are have a call with DOF later today. And we're going to kind of drive that conversation, right? If there was a committee, perhaps somebody on the committee would want to join us or just give us direction. That would be helpful.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. All right. We'll get the feedback to you.
And then the other thing, if I can ask you, so Chris previewed those 2 timelines. I'll have Chris send you the PowerPoint, but if you guys can start thinking about like what timeline you want to lean towards, that would be great. I have to say, we've been back and forth on like what to do. I think we all want to do maybe the quicker timeline, but then the thing is we have no assurance that then there won't be changes, and that seems also risky. So that's a piece that if you guys at the commission meeting could have an opinion on, that would help guide us too.
Yeah, I tend to lean towards earlier as well. But I can understand. I mean, it's too bad that that we don't have more tea leaf reading, on like what, because I would hate for us to do this hybrid thing and then the legislature to be like, JK, do it all formula.
And when we have the meeting with DOF, Department of Finance today, I'll just ask them that and then see what but then, I don't know what the response is. What I'm trying to do, and I've said this, I think, to LAC and Judicial Council, is like, it would be great if we can get assurance, right? We got that with HP grants. I don't know if it's possible with this because it's more complicated, but with HP grants, they gave us an assurance that they're going to build into the budget 20 million for 3 years. So we went and issued a 3-year RFP based on that. I don't know if we're going to get that assurance here. So it might be one of those things that at some point the commissioner will just have to take a leap of faith one way or another and give some direction. So.
Yeah. Okay. Let me take a look at it and we'll get some feedback to you. Thanks, Dwan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thanks, Dwan.
Bye, you guys.
Take care, everybody.